Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is your brother, Asar Imhotep, with the Madhu Mandela Institute for the Advancement of Science and Culture. Today is Saturday, June the 27th, 2020, and we are still in the pandemic. But as always, I am glad that you have taken the opportunity that you could be out trying to catch the virus, but trying to catch some knowledge and some wisdom by being a part of this program here this evening. And today we have a special show because I have some special guests, and we're going to have a special conversation, and y'all are going to have a good time tonight. And so, as always, I like to thank those individuals who like to join us live and enter the chat and want to have a conversation. And so, peace to Sister Lakeisha, peace to Brother Chavez, peace to Tamika, peace to Sister Kirsten, Donald Flory, Garrison Dana, and all of those who are watching but just aren't in the chat room at the present moment, either on Facebook or on YouTube. So, as you all know, yesterday I kicked off the beginning of a series of conversations dealing with a film that will be released on July the 18th called Happy. And I was privileged to be a part of the film. And today we have the producers of that film. And so before I introduce these wonderful guests on the program, I want to share with you the trailer to the film. So if you just bear with me 1 second as I share my screen. I shared one of the trailers last night, and tonight I'm going to share another trailer. And so there's, I think, a total of 4 trailers. They informed us. And so with each guest, I'll try to share a new trailer. So here's the trailer.
So we have to have our own narrative of what history has been and what history is and what history can be used for. As Dr. Clark, our great scholar, said it best, history can be our clock to tell us where we come from, what time it is, and where we need to go. History can be a compass for us to let us know what we have to do and what we haven't done, so that we have to make sure that we don't build our narrative of socialization, how we get our values, and acculturation, how we fit into society, based upon the lies of European superiority and African inferiority. But we have to understand that we have suffered through a process of dehumanization, but our resilience and our strength has allowed us to rise. And we can say, as my mentor said, and still I rise. And African symbols of rebirth and resurrection, even after death and destruction, show that the Africans built into their culture a consciousness that out of death and destruction can come new life. And this is what is the lesson of Happy, that there is resilience in the ecological systems of the earth, there's resilience in the human family on earth, and there's resilience in the mysteries of the universe.
The COVID-19 virus is spreading rapidly across Bexar County. Local hospitals are approaching capacity. Protect yourself and your family. Stay home except for essential activities. Wear a face covering and avoid gathering with people outside your household.
Africans understood they were doing. Build for eternity.
And tickets are on sale now at hopifilm.com. Again, the premiere date, and it will be shown online, is July the 18th. And so I welcome Sister Felicia, Brother Taaqiy, and Brother C, Tehuti, with Tehuti Films. Y'all may unmute your mics.
Thank you. Good evening.
Peace. Good evening, everyone. How are y'all doing on this wonderful Saturday evening?
Doing fantastic. Doing great. Yep. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Now, I just got word that there's the Roots concert. They're doing it online. And so after this, I'm going to join the concert. So I'm glad y'all didn't go to the online concert and decided to have a conversation with your boy. And so just want to say thank you again, first and foremost, for the vision of the film, the execution of the film, and for bringing some of our top scholars together to have a much needed conversation on the forward movement of African people, and providing steps for us to realize our ancestral mission of self-determination. And so I'm very happy to have seen the film and to have been a part of the film. And it is a very, very well done film. And as a person who was into media and graphics and the arts and things of this nature, this is very top notch from beginning to end, from the sound, the sound quality, to the visuals, to the content of it all. It is just a very well put together film. And so what I want to each of you to do is really to kind of introduce yourselves, and what role did you play for the film, and if you can, how did you become a part of the film, if that is right. So what I'll do is I'm gonna start off with Sister Felicia. I'm gonna go down to Brother Taaqiy and Brother Seed. So we'll go like this. Well, at least on my screen, it's like that. So I don't know how it is on y'all's. But Sister Felicia. Is she frozen?
Yeah, it looks like that. Looks like she's coming back in now.
There you go.
It's my internet. I don't know what's wrong with my internet. I think my internet is probably at the Roots picnic party too. I don't know.
Hope it didn't catch the COVID.
Everybody's using the internet for the picnic party. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if you heard the question in full. So I'm asking everyone to introduce themselves.
Okay.
Tell us how you became a part of the film and what role do you play in the production and an overall ness of the film. So you go first.
Okay, so my name is Felicia Harden, and I actually met Taaqiy Seed and his wife on the street in Harlem about 2.5 years ago, and that was my first introduction with the film. At that time, Taaqiy had kind of mentioned the film, but we were mainly talking about the whole Egypt because he takes a lot of people. He does trips to Egypt like for the last 20 years, and so we were mainly talking about that. And in the conversation about Egypt, he mentioned Hapi, and I remember going home and looking up the GoFundMe page, and I donated some money because I think you should, if you're Black, you should always donate money to other Black filmmakers. So yeah, we it's like our money, we always need money. So I donated some money, and we were talking about it more, and I was reading about it. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And so just like little by little, kind of inch my way in there. And so eventually, because at this point, you figure they had already been shooting for a couple, maybe 2 years at that point. I'm not for sure, but the film was well like going. And so I kind of started really just working on some more like post-production, getting ready type things. Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. And so, brother Taaqiy.
So my role in the film is director, one of the executive producers of it. Just really overall trying to coordinate, make sure that everything runs smoothly. All the different aspects of it, from just the in-house production side, work very closely with Tehuti, the brother and I. We did a lot of work together. Filming, sitting down, scene selection, dialogue selection. It's that's one of the main parts of it. Also on the back end, the financing, trying to coordinate just different ways to put financing together, working with other individuals, other executive producers, set up the GoFundMe page, and all the other aspects of crowdfunding as well. Also, really coordinating just the launch of the film on different platforms. Just overall, just really coordination of the project itself, and making sure everything runs smoothly, all the different tentacles of the project, because it comes together rather seamlessly, like almost like branches of the Delta of the Nile. When we think of the film, I look at the film that way, coming from the Hapi, using the Hapi as an analogy, using the Hapi as an example. The film itself is the Hapi. It is the river itself, the Nile River. But funneling into the Nile is the branches of the Delta. So it's really significant to look at it for me in that way, and how all these different branches of the Delta fit into the project itself. So that's essentially what my function is, or how I came to, I guess, be a part of it. Obviously, the idea, not obviously, but the idea is something that came about from various different, let's say, aspects of talking to individuals and thinking of certain things. The brother Rock, who's one of the producers on the film, he, for a while, kept coming to me after Nubian and Tekken, and was like, we should do something on economics. And I was like, I don't know about that right now, because I have some things to work.
Hold on, before you continue, Nubian and Tekken, what is that?
Okay, so the Nubia, which was the Untold Stories, the subtitle, it's a film we did back in 2007, and 2006, 2007, and really was centered on the study of Nubian civilization going back to Meroe, Kerma, Napata. Essentially, with Dr. Jeffries Infodici and I, we worked on that. The second was done a year later, and that was the unseen. Got this subtitle on that. The Unseen Messages of Ancient Egypt. In other words, kind of like, sort of like, but Egypt on the Potomac. A lot of it was shot in D.C., in Malcolm X Park or Meridian Hill Park, places like that, to kind of show the hidden symbology or symbolism, of ancient Kemet in D.C., Benjamin Banneker. We went to all these different places to really kind of establish what's happening there. And also some of that, we had some footage from Egypt from years past. So again, after that, it was a long hiatus that was taken, and the Brother Rock kept singing like that. So at some point, it was like, kind of like this epiphany 5 years ago. And we had a conversation at BAM during Dance Africa, and we was talking about just doing different things. And he was like, yo, Ty, what's up? And I was like, damn, you know what? I saw the tie-in, I guess, from something I was previously working on, which was really started off with just talking about the relationship between the kingdoms of the Nile, which is really essential for me, and really speaking to how the people of the Nile come together, because when you think of people of the Nile, you think of how Egypt is now placed in the Middle East and Kemet's now not a part of Africa anymore. So to reestablish that connection has always been vital for me, and always very important. So it really started off that way. That's why you see a lot of the relationship speaking, Kermaway, things like that in the film, in Hapi, speaking to that, because that is the core, that is the foundation of the piece. So as you get deeper into kingdoms of the relations of the kingdom of now, you start to learn that the reality is that they had by and large, an economic relationship that they depended on each other for goods. So understanding this and understanding some of the wars and all the wars that were fought during that time, you get back to the economic piece, whether it was the Hyksos, whether it was the war against Kerma, Kadesh, all these different things lead us back to economics. So with that being said, it just came together seamlessly in terms of the initial vision for it. So I was very grateful and pleased to be introduced to Brother C. Haru from one of our elders, Bob Haru. And we started working on it, another brother and I, sometime before that. But, I always look at meeting Seed and going through that process as being divine, because the way it set itself up, there was other forces at work beyond us. So the rest is kind of history. And obviously, we met Felicia. Each person we met along the way kind of helped the project being taken to another level. So I definitely, I'm eternally thankful to all of them and to all the cast members, especially like yourself, because, you came up north twice. And one trip to Boston, super late or super early, in the morning. And the other time we came back to get additional conversation, different dialogue from you. So really, it's a testament to everyone that's involved, and couldn't be done without everyone.
Indeed, indeed. And the man of the hour, Brother Seed. Your mic.
Yeah, to start with what we do, we're a full functioning production company. I started with Viacom probably about 15 years ago, and worked with BET, Atlantic Records, and Interscope. And that just kind of gave me the foundation. Russell Simmons was the first person that gave me an opportunity to do licensing and marketing on a high corporate scale, and it just introduced me to the market. I think that from that point on, I had to make some big decisions. I had worked with a lot of the big names in the industry and had done a lot of bio work, profile work, and just kind of wanted more. So, my wife and I created Tehuti Films. And in doing that, we started picking up projects. We started working on This Legacy of Ours, which is still in the process. We're dealing with some EP issues, and which is executive producer issues, which is what most of the time happens when people of color come together and start making films. They got to figure out ways, like Felicia said earlier, of finding money. And that's one of the things that you're constantly going to be doing as a filmmaker. So we also had completed a film called Reflections of a Blessed Soul by Maya Angelou, by Foremost Films. And, I had kind of been communicating with Baba Heru. I went through initiation with him about 17 years ago with the Shrine of Ptah. And he reached out to me and said, I need you to meet this filmmaker. And, that's where Taaqiy and I made that introduction. I saw that Taaqiy was a student of Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Mfundishi, and that he had already been doing films and stuff like that. So we met on a more serious level, where within 3 months of us communicating and exchanging information, and, as it comes to filmmakers, it's like hard drives, and organization and stuff like that. And before you know it, within 3 months, we were in Kemet. My wife and I and Taaqiy, and we had to stop in Rome, and it was life-changing. He had been there several times before us, so he knew exactly what he wanted to do as far as production and directing. He knew exactly where to put us. There was a lot of room of saying, what is the shot? Where should this be? I had a lot of leeway on lighting, but at the same time too, it's a little overwhelming. Like the first time I've interviewed Zahi Zawis, because this is something that is impactful. It wasn't so much of who he was, Zahi Zawis. It was the fact that I was in front of the Merkut. I was in front of Khufu's pyramid. So the impact of that, and also having to align and cut and take and make sure everything's cool. We were there 11 days the first time, and it was magical. There's nothing like it. I think that the important part of this film, what we share is important, but also what we contributed into each other's lives, our family, the development of going onto sets and there being a Black crew. That was really important, especially in these environments. It wasn't something, still, I've been there 4 times. I still haven't seen a Black crew. So it's really important that we continue doing these projects. I saw one of the brothers said that we're no longer asking for permission on the comments. And I think that that's exactly, it couldn't be better stated. The fact that this team came together the way it did is very important. I felt as though when Taaqiy met Felicia that they had known each other for years, the way that they were communicating, and that was something as well in interacting with Taaqiy and being in Cairo, in Luxor, and Aswan. He's fluent in Arabic, so it was a whole different world. It's almost like going to China or going to Japan, and the person that you're with speaks fluent, and we were just able to move and do things. The interesting thing about this film is that the core of this is about family, and it's about the relationships that these different families came together in and around the Nile. So the other part that I wanted to mention too was, your book, Asar Imhotep Nusut Biti, gives us a great idea of what Nusuts are, because I think there's a misconception of what that is and what roles they played in society. And I think that this film also has a great contribution as that applies to that, because Taaqiy made sure that we focused on Nusuts, but at the same time, we also focused on people that were governing, that were ruling, that were important in trade. And I think that when anyone talks about Egypt, they automatically think about pharaohs. They automatically think about gold and wealth. And I think that this film had another approach. It was speaking about agriculture. It was speaking about using the river as a highway, as a means of transportation. And I think that that's really important. As far as cinematic growth, I think that I definitely grew as we went along. So the first shoot, I had one experience. The second shoot, I had another experience, and so forth and so on. Because when you go to a site like that, if you're not prepared and you're not there for several weeks, it's completely overwhelming. There's no way that you could possibly see the same thing twice. And I know that y'all agree with me. We've spoken about this several times. But another part of it too, as it deals with Asar Imhotep's role, was, you know, we went to the Boston Museum, and I think that even that was something that they weren't ready for us. You know, it was just a very distinct feeling walking through those halls and having complete access to the museum. I think that that's something too that people have to walk away with, even though it moves so fast. The film moves so fast. It's something that that has to be remembered because it's very impactful. And that and the other museums, you know, Taaqiy went to the Chicago Institute, and I think that that's something that can't be overlooked when you see this film.
All right, appreciate it. So now y'all know most of everyone involved in the film. But the question I have now is, why Hapi? Why didn't y'all call it Amazon or Tigris and Euphrates? You know, why didn't y'all even use the word Nile? Why Hapi of all the names, you know, for this film? And anyone can answer.
Go ahead, Ty.
Well, I guess I'll just start off. But I'm gonna go back to something I said a minute ago. In the important part about understanding the foundation of the film, because really what this piece is, and we want to make this clear to the audience, it's not a film about ancient Egypt. In a sense, it is, but it isn't. You know, Hapi is a snapshot of economic history from the beginning of time until today. So what you have really is essentially a timeline of economic history starting in ancient Egypt. Really, the film starts today. Then it moves into the past. It goes from the Nile, or which is essentially East Africa, the Nile's Valley civilizations, Kush and Kemet. Then it moves after the fall of ancient Kemet, or really more so ancient Kush, ancient Meroe. It moves then to West Africa with the emergence of the great West African civilizations and the trans-Saharan trade, which was the emergence of civilizations like Timbuktu, Songhai, Mali, Ghana, you know. And it talks about, then goes into the financial or the economic foundation of Western civilization, their emergence through the transatlantic slave trade. So a large part of the film is shot in Ghana, as was in Kemet. And we're in Ghana, we're in the slave dungeons in Elmina, and we talk or speak to how that set the stage for Western civilization. And then it goes into, as it moves further in time, it goes across the Atlantic. It deals with the early settlers here in the United States, and it brings us full circle back to where we are today. So that is the film in a nutshell. It's over 2 hours and 12 minutes long. Could have been longer. We wanted to try to cut at some point, but that's Hapi. But why the name Hapi? The name Hapi because it goes back into, again, essentially its foundation and dealing with Nile Valley civilization and using the systems of the Nile to give us the blueprint and the roadmap for where we need to go, using what our ancestors laid down as the rights, you know, in other words, the right things to do. They had an understanding of life and understanding of ecology. So Hapi speaks to understanding your ecology, not so much of being an agrarian society or being a farmer like there was 5,000 years ago, but understanding what we have now in our ecology to empower ourselves. So Hapi, again, like the brother Seed said, deals with relationships and deals with families. And that is the important piece, because even so making this film was made through relationships. Everything in this film is about relationships and who we are as a people and formulating those relationships. So that is Hapi, and that's why the name Hapi was chosen.
All righty. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show a visual of some of the people who are in the film. So I want to go down the road. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
And you know, tell us who these people are, because you know the writing is very small here, but you know, tell us who they are, and what do they bring to the film itself. And
That's
I know, just make it brief. Don't
make it brief.
give me their life's works. So y'all can switch. So we know Dr. Jeffries. We had him on the program last night.
Yeah.
So we'll save you, Dr. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, but we'll move along the lines here. So who is this beautiful lady right here?
So we probably should alternate lines.
Yeah.
See, you want to take the first one?
Your mic.
Dr. Solange Ashby is an archaeologist. Her primary focus is Nubia and the Nasut Biddies that were also women, right? The queens of the Nile, and her influence on the film was very important, because it was the explanation of lineage and how that related to women. And I think that's a really important part, because a good portion of the time when we think about ancient Kemet or Egypt, we think of it from a masculine perspective. So it was something that she was able to meet my wife. They were able to go to the Nubian Museum, and then later that day we were able to meet them at Philae and interview her, also at a feminine temple, you know, of all of the Neterus, not just Aset and Heteru. There's Bes there. So it was really impactful in how she communicated, and also the direction that Taaqiy gave her in working that out. And I think that's goes to it again of how this was communicated originally, was almost if Taaqiy had a vision and a thought in his head, but the complexity of that, because the brother's deep. And I think that some of the time, Felicia and I, we had to figure out, not a sense of watering it down, but how do we make it palatable so that other people can understand. And I think that Solange Ashby did a very good job in helping us do that.
All right, and we have here Dr. Boyce Watkins and Dr. Julianne Malveaux. Tell us about your experience with these two.
Go ahead, Todd. Give me some voice.
So, wow. So one of the things I just want to, before I get into Dr. Boyce Watkins, is I just want to say this. We shot Dr. Watkins twice, and this is a testament to the brother Seed's creative vision in terms of the aesthetics of the film.
Mm-hmm.
When we shot it initially, it was poorly, I won't say it was poorly executed in terms of lighting and sound. And he said, telling me, "Yo, Talk, we got to do this over." Mm-hmm. And we got to do it again. And it was kind of challenging to get the second interview, but we were able to obtain it. And it came well. So what you see now is interview 2, actually. And that's, you know, hats off, kudos to Seed for having the understanding of how important the look and aesthetics is to a film. Dr. Malveaux and Boyce are both the resident economists on the film, if you will. Mm-hmm. And, you know, both of them deal strictly, that's their discipline, and that is their strong suit. So as economists, they complement each other extremely well throughout the entire piece, because we had to have an understanding of economics to be able to communicate what the overall mission or overall vision of the film is.
And so next we have, because the reason why I want to show y'all the cast is to let you know that this is an all-star cast here. And These aren't random cats that they just found on the internet, uh, who has a cell phone and spits some stuff randomly on Instagram Live. That these are professionals in their fields, and it's a very diverse class. So we have here on the left Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Raketi Amin. They mentioned Baba Heru earlier, so this is Baba Heru here. For those that don't know, and then Dr. Rosalind Jeffries. This is the wife of Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who we had on last night. So how was it, Sister Felicia, if you know, working with any of these? What did you get? Were you? I don't know, like if you were able to be a part of the interview of any one of these, but if you were, tell us what your experience was. Being in the presence of either one of these or all of these individuals on this row.
So you know what? Actually, no. I can pick which ones I by the time I came, this role was done. But but let me tell you, this Dr. Wade Nobles, this is my man right here. He is the man. I love. He's a psychologist. He just breaks it down. So I had a chance because we interviewed him later on during Happy Talks. So I had a chance to interview him and Dr. Rosalind Jeffries. She's just a sweet soul. She's really super smart, and she's, I've been over their house a couple of times, and she just kind of took me through some of her art books and stuff. Like, she's dope. Like, all of these people are dope, and that's why I'm telling you, this is what makes Happy such a good film, because of all these people right here. Yeah.
And it seems that everyone, or at least Brother Taaqiy and Saeed, have this connection. And there's even people on the squad who have a connection with Baba Heru, and he seems to be, just one of those pillars in New York. And so it's good to see this elder. And then we have Dr. Raketi Amin, and what many may not realize is that she was really one of the first, if not the, along with Dr. Jacob Carruthers, to really study seriously the Meta Nature. And so a lot of people who learn Meta Nature come from her lineage here in the United States, as far as African Americans are concerned, who didn't directly go to like Dr. Ashby, like the University of Chicago, but the Diop Obinga came here, taught a lot of folks, and she carried that torch and taught many, and now many of her students, there's two on the squad, Brother Sanjeti Ankra, who's also a part of the shrine under Baba Heru, and Brother Wujawu, both study under her, and now they teach Meta Nature. And so you're looking at a pioneer here in terms of Egyptological studies. And Dr. Raketi also translated one of Sheikh Anta Diop's books, and actually met and studied with him in Senegal in the 70s, I believe. And the publishers won't let her publish her translation of the book. And this is the parent genetic book that that many will reference, but if you don't speak French, then you won't know the details. But that's the one where Sheikh Anta Diop compares the Wolof language to the ancient Egyptian and Coptic, and shows the relationship between those two languages. But again, these are top-notch folks. And so, Brother Taaqiy, who are these individuals?
I got a story there before we move on past Raketi, because that's important.
Yeah.
I think that I was also super excited to interview Professor Raketi, and to me, she's like the Yoda of our culture, and the fact that she's the keeper of secrets, if you want to look at it that way. She's the foremost Jedi master. And I said to Taaqiy, wait, you got access to Raketi? And he said, yeah. And I said, wow, well, what do I got to do? And, and it was a mission. I went to Mississippi, Tennessee, border Tennessee, Mississippi. And I went there and conducted the interview within a day. Went there and back. And it was, without being too spooky and everything else, like, Dr. Rocchetti lives a very simple life, and it's very passive and very peaceful. So, I had to come in there with a certain energy, and I think that the questions that Taaqiy posed were perfect for her, because it was kind of like explain to the audience what Hapi is. What is the Hapi? And she very eloquently communicated that. I think that the connection between her and Baba Heru and the Temple of Anu and the Shrine of Ptah and the Shrine of Ma'at with Jabari, there's a lot of influence there in this film. So, I was like a kid in a candy store, to be honest with you, in the fact that Taaqiy was able to produce and communicate with all these people so that they can actually lend their voice to it. So
just on that note, so I'm gonna skip a few lines here, but Dr. Rocchetti is how Asar Imhotep came to be a part of the project. Because after the interview, she and I talked, and she said, Taaqiy, I'm not sure if I gave you everything that you wanted. She said, but I think you might be interested in someone else. I said, who? She said, a brother named Asar Imhotep. I said, okay. So now I gotta look this person up now. I gotta find out who he is, where he's from, and reach out to the brother. And I think I made some other phone calls. I think I might have talked to him for D-Sheet. But then I heard there was some books out. I said, okay, let's find out who Harold Johnson Asar Imhotep is. But it came by way of Dr. Rocchetti. She thinks speaks very highly of you, and she saw you as the person that could make the linguistic connection. In terms of giving us examples of the various languages of the African dialects, languages, in terms of showing a linguistic confluence between East and West Africa. And not to give away a lot in the film, but that's one of the things that we talk of, that's spoken of frequently, is showing the connection between African people in various different segments. And one of them is language. And the brother Asar Imhotep did a great job in doing that. And that came by recommendation of Dr. Rocchetti.
Well, I'm humbled to know that. And I appreciate her for the recommendation. And I did not know this, so this is news to me. Y'all hearing it live with all conversations. So the next row we have the infamous Professor James Smalls.
I love that look on his face right there.
Yeah.
You could just tell he's serious.
Yeah.
With all that he does. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to give you it, raw, straight, to the point. But it'll be very informative. Any conversation you have with him. I met him way back in like the year 2000 when I moved back to Houston, because I was going to a school in San Marcos, Texas, then called Southwest Texas State University. It's now Texas State University. And when I moved back to Houston, there was a group there called Taaseti African Historical Society. And, these are people who were students of Dr. Ben, who just lived in Houston, started an organization, and they would bring these speakers down. And one of the speakers that they would bring down all the time was Professor Smalls. And so, being good with that organization, they would have the public meetings, that we had the conversations, and then we would have private lectures with Professor Smalls. And, we got to go deeper and stuff. So I've known him for a fairly long time. And no matter, what setting he's in, he's always teaching, always willing, and to give you some good, straight up, practical, information, and that's one of the things I appreciate with him. So I'm not surprised at all that he's in the film. And if he wasn't in the film, I would take some video clips of him and just send it to y'all. Just put him in. He'll fit somehow. But anyway, I assume, Brother Taaqiy, that you have a relationship with Professor Smalls as well.
Yeah.
How is it,
well,
having him a part of this project?
Like Dr. Jeffries, Professor Smalls, M. Fudishi, I think in terms of backbone, they are the backbone of the project. They kind of anchored it in a lot of ways. A lot of the discussion about migration and just cultural confluence came from a lot of long, deep discussions with Professor Small and I throughout the years, not just like recently, but kind of led to more of an awakening, more of a kind of just bringing home the vision of the project. Before we even started to even think about shooting, he was the catalyst behind a lot of it. Really more so, it's really, pointing to that. Dr. J is always there and just always really just talking about various different things. But Professor Smalls really is like one of the foremost anchors of the project. Even in the Ghana piece, we and that was like we shot that initially, like in terms of an international perspective, that was done first. And he has the cultural heritage trips that they do, I believe, annually to Ghana. And we were able to go on that journey. And that's when we initially started shooting again internationally the piece. So, but a lot of it came from or through or by way of Professor Small.
All right, and he's really kind of a quintessential personification of what the film is about, especially with the teaming up with Dr. Jeffries and the buying of the hotel in Ghana.
Yes, Sana Lodge.
Yes. So anybody going to Ghana and need a place to stay, y'all look that up. And so we have these, for many maybe unfamiliar faces. Sister Felicia, were you able to be a part of any of these interviews?
Nope, except for Dr. Newton, though. She came on Happy Talk, so I met her afterwards. And
okay.
The thing about this is that, like, after these interviews were done and I came on board, it's like I started to know them through the movie and then just studying about them, in this whole process of getting this film together. Dr. Newton, again, she's a psychologist. You talk about tell like it is. She tells it like it is. Sometimes with humor, sometimes you don't know if she's joking or not, but she's really, she's the truth. We also had Sri Master Gano Grills on Happy Talks as well. And then Dr. Georgina Falou. Yeah, she gets right to the point in the movie as well.
Where is she from?
Oh, no. Taaqiy?
Dr. Georgina Falou is Boricua. She's Puerto Rican. And she's a Harvard graduate. She's brilliant. She helps people create non-for-profits. She's a business owner, a homeowner, building owner in Harlem. And her insight was just communicating from a feminine perspective that we were Africans, and when we're talking about Egypt, which is seen as the Middle East, most of the time, there is no connection to Africa there. So Georgina very eloquently communicated that we were not slaves, we were enslaved, and that our educational level from people from that region was very higher than most. And she played a very big part. Sri Master Gano Grills was pivotal in communicating ritual, and I know that was the direction that Taaqiy took. He studies metaphysics, and he has a large metaphysics ritual community. So I think that in not just with that, but also with the Ifa priest, which we'll soon get to. That was, without giving too much away, that was just communicating how important ritual was, even in an economy-based society, because you have gnomes that are associated with the river, and those gnomes equate what goods and what agriculture was going to be donated to that temple. And that was associated with ritual. See, so all these things were in Ma'at, balanced righteousness and reciprocity, as to how that created a system of economics, politics, and culture.
And on that note, like, many people may not realize and understand that, as I mentioned in the book you mentioned, Nesubiti, which came out in 2016, that the king, quote unquote, is the premier ritualist for the kingdom and village or larger community. And they primarily were the rainmakers in the more archaic days. Their job was to bring rain. But the rain symbolizes, of course, the prosperity, because without water, of course, you can't have a thriving community. You can't feed your people and things of that nature. But also, more importantly, is that they are the ones who have the relationship with the forces on that particular geographical space. And it is with the good relations that they have with the natural forces in that area where a lot of the economic prosperity, it is believed, comes from. And so that notion of the importance of ritual, at least in an indigenous African setting, to the prosperity of one's household and the society at large, is a very important component, and it can't be taken out of the discussion, especially when you're talking about African history and culture and in terms of that. So that was just as important as finding the raw materials to turn into a particular product or whatever in the whole economic process. So I'm glad you had individuals like him and the Babalawo, who we'll see a little later. But we'll speed it up just a little bit. So we have here Brother Mfudishi, who y'all mentioned before. We have a Dr. Jacqueline Batalora. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Good brother Jabari Osaze and Dr. Peter Lacovara. And so let's start off with Mfudishi, since that seems to be kind of the foundation for a lot of this. Go ahead. Anyway.
Well, Mfudishi, I met him back in, I guess it was like 2002, and I studied under him for quite a while. In some ways, I'm still studying under him. He's my first Metal Nature teacher. So with that came the introduction to not only language, but art, culture, customs, things like that. Because, the class that we have is more than just studying, triliterals, biliterals, and, various components of the language, but more so just how it then relates to everything else in ancient Kemet. So, like I said, we've worked together, we've traveled together throughout Kemet several times. And Felicia and I worked together on other films. So he's definitely someone I hold in high regards.
All right. And we have Dr. Jacqueline here. Now, she plays an important role and has a unique conversation in the film. Tell us what she's about. What does she do in real life?
Well, I'll take her also. So Dr. Jacqueline Batalore wrote a book, Birth of a White Nation. And in that book, she discusses the origin of the term white people being something that was made up to basically impose class systems in particularly in this country. She also talks about the concept or the aspect of people call white supremacy and how it came about, and just really kind of putting an identity on what we're dealing with today, starting in colonial America. Starting in colonial America and what the people in colonial America did, particularly those who were ruling versus those who were in servitude, either indentured servants, enslaved people, or even free people who weren't necessarily in that top 1% of what's going on in terms of finances. So a lot of what we're experiencing today in terms of disparity of wealth seemed like it existed during that period, and it led to what we're going on right now, particularly what they call through the anti-miscegenation laws, which kind of led to how some of the things that are going on in the Black community in terms of some of the things that were said in the laws that, Black people couldn't own guns, Black people couldn't testify against white people, and just things like that. So she really gets deep into how these things occurred and why. So when we deal with the early part of the naturalization and immigration laws also. So that's just like you said, she holds a really interesting role in the film, just kind of identifying white people, white rage, and just how they think.
And Brother Jabari, who wants to take Brother Jabari?
Come on, see.
Not all at once now.
Brother Jabari is the Sit Biddy of the Shrine of Ptah. He's the lead priest. I've met him because we both went through initiation with Baba Haru. So that's our connection, both with him and his wife. They play a pivotal role in communicating what Kemetic practices are here on this side of the Hudson River, because the Temple of Anu is on the Jersey side and the Shrine of Ptah is on the New York Harlem side. I think that overall, what he brings and what he communicates as far as it pertains to property and in land ownership to the film was very pivotal. I think that we made it a point, Taaqiy and I, to have him included because he represents contemporary, and we also had to communicate that shift over when we were talking about coming from Africa and now coming into the North American region, and why he explained why cotton was so valuable and what was traded and what was used, how we were used, how we continually remain to be used in veggie backing off of what Bantalora communicated. It has to do with status. And until we regain our status, we're going to continue in this rigmarole, this merry-go-round of economics, politics, and culture, because we were never given any proper status here. We're a commodity. So I think that Jabari did a very good job in communicating that, but also in communicating the Fufa and communicating other sites of ancient Kemet and ancient Kush and Merowe that were important. Because again, most of the time we always associate this specific land region where these pyramids are with everything that's African or everything that's Black excellence, and that's not so. So both Jabari and Dr. Guevara, they're I'm gonna let Taaqiy speak about this a little bit more, but Taaqiy we went on a mission. We went into the middle of nowhere, the Arabalis, and it was probably one of the hottest days that I've ever experienced in my life. I have a huge camera package. We're trying to figure out what vantage point, because what you're talking about is a fort that was made out of mud brick. So it no longer exists. What you're seeing, and the way that Dr. Guevara explains it, is that what we're probably seeing is probably 3 layers that have been crushed on top of it. And now these are the remains of what you're presently seeing. So we're in the middle of the desert, and there were some houses of some families so that were higher, that were maybe 3 or 4 stories, something like that, right, Todd? And we were able to get a vantage point, and being on that rooftop, like our feet were burning through our sneakers. So I don't know. That's not normal hot. That's like hot. But I do remember my wife, who she's relentless. She was kind of walking in and out and getting some of the shots that you see that are up close of Diarabalis. But please talk, build on that, because I think there's more to it.
So Dr. Peter Lacavara is another reshoot that we had. He's the archaeologist or the individual responsible for doing most of the excavation work at a site in Kemet called Darabalis, or in Kemet would be Sajat Fatawi, but Egypt, I guess they would call it Darabalis, using the Arabic name. It was the location or the capital during what they would call the second intermediate period, where the people kind of converged in this one fortified location. And that's where they kind of ruled a segment of Egypt during the Hyksos occupation. So a lot of what you find there in terms of the early New Kingdom rulers like Amoza, Amenhotep I, even like Amoza's father, second Rata, Amoza Nefertari, those people lived at Darabalis. They were there. Kamoza, all the freedom fighters, as we call them, against the Hyksos resided there, and that's where they launched the attacks from. So this particular site became really important to the storyline in terms of just understanding the relationship of the kingdoms of the Nile and how they dealt with foreigners, particularly the Hyksos and other campaigns that they may have had. So we originally shot Dr. Lacavara on a green screen, but it didn't come out the way that we expected and way we wanted. And some of the things in the conversation and the dialogue weren't expressed the way they were the second time around. So after we went to Egypt and came back, we requested to interview him again. And here you see downtown in New York City. He's over here close to West 4th by NYU. So one of the things in this discussion here, we were able to get better details out of the discussion. I guess now, having gone to Darabalis, we had a better understanding of what we were looking for in the questioning. But this was seamless here. This part went well. First one was kind of, and a lot of times when you interview, so I'm gonna just make this clear, when you interview these individuals who, I guess, archaeologists, Egyptologists, they're not really sure of who you are. They're not really sure what you want. So they don't answer questions the way that they, I want to say should answer questions, but the way they're capable of answering questions. So the second time around, we was able to get more information from him. And just so that we make this clear, I reached out to some people in Egypt, some of the top scholars in terms of in their field, archaeology, to get information on images on Darabalis. And the people in Egypt were pointing me to him. And some of the work he was doing through the, I can't think of the name, this the American, I think the ARC, American Research Society, something like that. I think that's what it is, RAC. And he was a part of that. And a lot of the dig work, I think they funded the dig work in Darabalis. So he wrote a book on it also. So he has a good understanding. What he provided in terms of, I guess maybe unknowingly for him, but he spoke of things about, and I know I'm being long-winded, we got to move on, I'm sorry, about the Kermaware, things like that, which is significance of showing groupings of certain African groups together there at a time when historically they've said that they were at odds with one another. So for the storyline, it was important to establish that. And when we went to the Boston Museum, one of the things that we were able to do was see the Kermaware and with Dr. Lawrence Berman. So he really provided some insight in that, and also connecting, like Seed was alluding to, connecting Kerma to Egypt and Darabalis, because the fortress at Darabalis was built kind of in, I won't say an association, but they built it similarly to that which you find in Kerma. So in their research, they determined that the knowledge or the insight of this fortification came up from Kerma into Kemet. So kind of showing again the origin of civilization moving up, or down the way you look at the Nile, but moving from the south into the north.
Indeed. So I want to remind everyone that they actually went to Egypt, and they didn't take photos off of Google Images and then put the film together. So no, they went there on the sites. It got access with some of these scholars.
And like
And
Steve
so we
said,
have,
it was one of the hottest days. I can't even begin to express how hot it was, but feet were burning through sneakers, like you said, and it was super hot.
He couldn't stand still for the interview. That's how hot it was, to kind of give you an idea. Just drop a couple bars, with you just kind of moving around. I'm like, what's going on? And it was like, it's hot. What do you want me to do? And I think that even one of the camera B shut off. Like it was it was those moments. But I'm grateful.
Yeah, when I brought my camera out there. No, I was just saying, when I brought my camera out there, it would overheat if I had it out, in the day. So I understand fully what you mean about it being hot. Like, you drink water, you really appreciate water.
Yes.
When you go to Egypt. Yes. You don't realize how much water you can drink in a day, unless you're walking, on the streets of Egypt, nonetheless. But you speak about
a surprise that I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
That was another surprise that Taaqiy had for me in that trip, was that he never told me that we were going to Egypt during Ramadan. So everything that you're saying, imagine that, and all of our guides could not drink water. So it was a special trip. Yeah, it was extra.
I don't even recall using the bathroom. I think I didn't sweated out all the liquids, down there. It's just crazy. And so it goes to show you, first and foremost, why you see on the walls of Kemet them not wearing shirts and stuff, and just have loincloths and sandals, because it's hot out there. And so you would not see them back in the day with these full garbs and wraps around their heads and stuff like this, especially being melanated people, drawing in more heat, so to speak. But so it provides you access. You have an interesting individual in the center here, Dr. Hawass. And so that was a surprise. I'm like, how did y'all make that happen? So how did y'all get him to be a part of the film? Did you kidnap his family? Did y'all have $1 million stashed, to get him? What did y'all do to get Dr. Hawass?
After the interview, I felt like I should have kidnapped somebody. That wasn't an easy one. But I got to tell you, in doing this, you realize, if you weren't aware of the ancestral power, it's something that this film kind of spoke to. And the reason why I say that is because the world became really small in doing this project, and everyone became really literally 6 degrees of separation. So we just knew mutual people, and it really kind of boils down to that. Oh yeah, that's such and such. You want to talk to? Yeah, here's his email address. Give him a call. Here's his number. So we spoke on the phone, and he said, "Yeah, just send me the questions." So we kept his questions just relative to the conversation of economics and politics, and he delivered in terms of what it was. But this is what he does, in terms of just being able to, he's a ham. He likes the camera. So the camera, he really, kind of, some people kind of shy when the camera, when the lights are on, but he's kind of, he loves the stage,
Yeah.
and that's his thing. So, but I remember it was very challenging. The fight got delayed coming from Rome, because we made the stop over at Rome. We got to Egypt late, actually from the States. I think coming from the States, we were delayed. So put us. Guys, see.
No, Rome. They shut down the airport. They had a strike at the airport. So even if we wanted to go anywhere, we were there and we didn't sleep. We just went to go eat, to go look at the Coliseum and go ahead.
So that pushed us back in time wise. So when we got there, we pretty much had to go straight to registration in the press office. So another big part of this film that people understand is that when you're shooting a piece like this, you have to obtain the credentials, your press credentials first. Anyone can go with a camera and shoot what they want to shoot. But if you were talking about trying to make a film that's going to be marketed and promoted, you have to get press credentials through the press office. And the process of it really takes place here in the States through the embassy, through the Egyptian embassy in DC. That's the first step. And then it moves on into, when you get to Egypt, you get your pass, everything like that. So we had to go there first. And then from there, they zipped us to to Giza. Now, it wasn't that far, but it's always so much traffic in Cairo. But I remember when we got there, we might have been 10 minutes late. We thought it was the end of the world. He was so pissed. I was like, yo, we're only 10 minutes late. And we're 10 minutes late because of everything else that happened. He knew the flight was late. He knew everything else, but it just, so we got right to set, credit to C, put the cameras up. Matter of fact, C was building the cameras on the way to Giza. So we were already prepared. So it wasn't like a whole lot. We didn't have to, really start to set up, the set. It was already started prepared. The mics, the lavs. He was putting stuff together in the van. And by the time the doors open, boom, we were ready. And it took us maybe 5 to 10 minutes. We set up, got the shots, got the angles, ready to go. And we rolled through the questions. And he had the questions ahead of time. He knew what they were. And he just went through them. And he really, he delivered in terms of really explaining economics and politics in that period around the Fourth Dynasty, around Khufu and Khafra, and talk about how those pyramids were built and what the management system, was put together in terms of how that was constructed. That's extremely important. And I hope people, when they watch the film, really get into what's being said and not so much who's saying it, because it's really important to understand the mechanisms that Africans put in place to do the things that we did. And when you understand the politics and the economics around Nile civilization, it will improve the economics and politics in your life. So that's what he brought to that discussion.
Indeed. And I know about that. Because I have a DSLR camera, a Nikon. And when I was in Egypt, as soon as I put the mic on, they was like, no, because now it looks like a professional. Right. They're thinking that you're a media and press. And so I was so mad because, I'm recording stuff and I'm catching everything because I don't have my mic, attached. But yeah, they serious about that.
No, they don't play no games with that. You got to be prepared. And the preparation, like I said, starts months in advance. And once, you have that process in place, then you get the credentials and you can kind of pretty much do what you want. Yeah. Then now they're helping you. Now they're like, okay, you want to go here, they want to go here. Like, they really assist you now. Then you have an attaché also from the press office that's with you the whole time. And that person interacts with the foreman in every site and tells them, like, yo, they're with me. They're cool. Open up the gates, what they want to do. They have all the permission to do it.
Yeah, and that's another key thing about going to Egypt. Make sure that you are rolling with some credentialed people in the area, because you forget that you're not in Kansas anymore, and this isn't ancient Egypt. This is the modern Arab Republic of Egypt, and they have issues there. That this is why you have these checkpoints every so many blocks, with armed guards in all the major cities. And like, I remember landing coming from Egypt in 2015, and on the plane your phones are off for the most part, and so you're not getting any messages and things. So when I land, my text messages and Facebook and all these other inboxes just started flooding in, asking, was I all right? And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? And, you know, because news had got out that a van full of tourists had got shot up by a helicopter because they had drifted off going into, like, going towards in the Libyan desert. And, you know, they didn't have any papers. So they like, you know, we don't trust it. We'll shoot first and ask questions later. You know, and so like everywhere they made sure, you know, you are with a guide and this person, here's your papers and da 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 da. Because if you don't, you know, you may end up in a place. And people got to remember that this is around the time, you know, on the tail end of the fall of Libya and people and other kind of terrorists coming in from Libya trying to get into Egypt and stuff. So they were really on high alert, you know, for all of that kind of stuff. And so, you know, we didn't see anything crazy while we were there, but it's just a reminder that, you know, you just can't walk freely and do freely as you want in Egypt. So we have this charismatic politician, Brother Charles Barron, and you know, who wants to introduce him to the discussion?
See, you want to talk about Mr. Barrett?
Yeah, you know, Assemblyman Barron, you know, he's so charismatic. I mean, he's a former Panther, right? His approach and how he was communicating and what he gave us, I personally thought was extremely profound and was extremely important in communicating solutions. I actually was having a conversation today about the deployment of wealth and how that comes through the mayor's office. And he very, you know, the way he explained how the power of wealth is distributed through these heads of office and how they can instantly make you a millionaire. I don't think that anyone else could have explained that better than he did. He's in the center, you know, of the tornado of all of that, and I'm just grateful. You know, we were able to go to East New York, Taaqiy and I, and interview him. I had to circle back and get some B-roll later and so forth and so on, but it was great to see him holding post, and that's kind of what I see. And when I think of him, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do, especially in East New York. So much respect, much props to him.
I just want to add on to that briefly. He's one of those interviews with I call difficult in the sense of he gave us too much. He gave us so much in the interview. Interview generally averaged around 2 hours, and you know, when we sit down afterwards and just give people a little insight on how the film are made, these films are made in this sense of documentaries. You listen to the interviews and you make your cuts. You let people have complete statements, and he gave us so many profound statements in there. And it was like, damn, like, you know, we have so much of this. Like, how do we put this in the film and fit into everything everyone else is saying? So he really, really kind of brought the fire. As he was saying, had a lot of powerful sound bites, and it made our jobs difficult because we now had to find a place for it or find a home for the things he was saying. If you know, out of 2 hours, if you get, this is literally, if you get 10 seconds or 30 seconds after 2 hours, that's considered good, you know, in most cases, because that's really what you're going to use for a project like this. But for him, he gave us so much in those 2 hours that, you know, he became another one of those kind of, in a sense, another anchor, particularly on the political side, because he really explains politics in a contemporary sense. And that's, again, the contemporary piece we talk about in the film. After we move from Egypt, from the Middle Ages, from the early, American settlers and all that stuff to where we are now. He's that anchor in that time, in the contemporary times.
Indeed. Well, we know this character, so we're going to skip him and we're going to go to the guide. What's his name?
His name is actually Kofi.
Kofi.
Yes.
And so y'all mentioned earlier that y'all went to Ghana, and this is a part of the tour in front of one of the slave dungeons. And so how important was, having gone through that experience in terms of the slave dungeons at a place where was the beginnings for us being the economy for another, and people, returning, to one of the places for which we began. And, how was that experience itself? Not necessarily telling what you'll hear and see here, but at least for those who went, what was that experience like? And what did you get out of this scene?
Right. So one of the individuals that were actually intimately involved in this is not here with us today. His name is Alfredo Williams, but he went to Ghana, and this is again through the cultural heritage tours. This whole segment here was done around the Independence Day of Ghana, and I believe that was in 2016, in July 2016, and that's when this was shot. So it wasn't just the piece about Elmina and talking about the economic foundation of Western civilization through the transatlantic slave trade or the triangle slave trade, but it was also more so about the Ghanaian independence, the I don't want to mispronounce the word, or this river, and the significance of that river to the culture, to pilgrimage, and leading us now to the slave dungeon. So it was a whole piece there. And like Kemet, there was also a process not is intricately involved, where we had to go through a submission process in terms of obtaining press credentials through the Ghanaian embassy and here in New York City. And it was a vetting process. It was actually, to be honest with you, it was a lot more difficult than Egypt was. Egypt was pretty seamless. Egypt was like, okay, what you want to do? The Ghana piece, it took time. It took time, and I took several trips back and forth to the embassy. Personally, wasn't like on the phone. Had to keep going back and forth, and eventually, at the last minute, at the very last minute, I think the flight was probably that afternoon. That morning, they finally approved it. And so it took some time, and it was more like just a vetting process. And a lot of these governments become very suspicious of who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know what I mean? Indeed. Like, okay, CIA, what do you want? Where you going? Where you shooting? This, that, and the third. I guess with Egypt, it's kind of like, okay, we know you're coming to the sites. Ghana was like, okay, why are you coming? Who do you want? Like, so
sound like they had to do a divination before they could approve.
Right. Several letters, several communications back and forth.
Indeed. Well, I want to kind of hurry it up from here. So I'll just randomly pick two individuals from this discussion. So we'll start with the Babalawo over here in the corner. Who is he? And, what role did he play in the film?
Okay, do you want to take that one?
I think that you know more about him than I do. I know I could have. I think you were trying to set up going to his home, but we ended up shooting him in Coney Island, and he was able to do a ritual with him and some of his practitioners, which we also shot Professor Smalls that day. And it's just it's how it works. It's like you gotta roll with the punches. It's almost as everything was right but one thing, and we were able to catch it when it came to shooting the chief here. And it was very interesting for me because I had never been involved in any form of Ifa ritual, celebration, or custom. And that day we also met Lilith White, and who ends up being the narrator for most of the film with Professor Small. So I thought that was a really powerful day. It was extremely cinematic, and he's very well spoken. Again, I think that with each one of these interviews, like Taaqiy was saying, most of these interviews are 2 hours, and for the most part, it was very challenging from an editorial standpoint, because sometimes, even though you asked the right questions, they didn't give you what you needed, which is what I think Taaqiy was communicating. So when you're stitching this all together, and you're connecting the dots or formulating your web, sometimes you have to figure out what stays on the chopping room floor and what is actually something that we can use. And I think that was a big part of the delay, which turned out to be positive, because there's people like Kenneth Kelly that are not here on the site that we were able to get. Like Felicia and I were able to go to Detroit and get Kenneth because of the fact that things were delayed. So it's like what Taaqiy was saying, that there was spirit here. The Netarus were at work in just making sure that we were able to put all the pieces together, because we wanted to make sure that the film, in its finale, in its closing segments, was solution orientated. That the viewer and the audience were going to walk away from watching Hapi and feeling that there were some goodies that they could take away from the ancient past, from what's contemporary, that would help them create a solution in their lives.
Hey, so I know we got to be brief, but I just want to add on to something quickly. So the Babalawo here, he comes into play because, again, economics has to be looked at in so many different levels. And like with Gano Grills, and in terms of bringing what he brought to the table, and the Babalawo here, we wanted, and even Dr. Wade Nobles, we talked about spiritual economics, and in terms of just, making offerings, and what is the expectations once those offerings are made. So the question was, can economics be looked upon in a spiritual context? And then that's where it comes in, because we need to understand economics is more than just, exchanging money for a good in a store. It's a lot deeper than that. Even look on the walls of ancient Kemet when the offerings are being made, or Hotep De Nasut. All these things are in a form of an offering that you're giving, but you are getting something in return. So whatever you're getting in return is what we consider what we call spiritual economics. So he brought that to the table. Also with Lilith White, when we were on the beach shooting, I was looking at her and I was like, this woman looks familiar. And I was like, wow, that's Fat Annie. So we want to give that away too. So Fat Annie is, from those who are familiar with the Get Down, the show on Netflix, or the series on Netflix, she was the gangster. And here she was, a priestess, the Ifa priestess, on the beach. And I'm like, wait a second. It's like two totally different, things. But obviously she has, she's an actor, she's an actress, she's a Tony Award winning entertainer. So she has all these credentials, but I didn't, we just happened to go on the beach and she was there with the group, with this Ifa house. So we started talking to her and she was like, yo, yeah, I'll be interested in, I'd love to be a part of it.
Indeed. And so, Sister Felicia, I'll let you pick someone randomly from these bottom, 6.
What, Asar, can I pick somebody who's not on there?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so I'm going to pick Kenneth Kelly. He is the CEO. He's the CEO of one of the 21 black banks that's left now. 21 black banks. Yeah, he's the CEO of First Independence Bank, which is located in Detroit. We, like Steve said, he said he was really nice because he lives in Atlanta, but he works in Detroit. So he kind of, he does a whole bunch of commuting, and something else was going on. I think it was like some banking something. So he was literally trying to fit us in. So like on Monday, we got the word, I think we can go like Wednesday or something like that. So we flew home. I'm from Detroit. We flew home, we shot him, and we came back. But he's really awesome. And he talks a lot about capitalism. He also talks about just what we can do as Black people in terms of helping the dollar circulate in our communities longer, things like that. So, and he's not on there. We got to update our website.
Indeed. Yeah, because there's another name for you still on the website. I won't mention. But yeah, I wanted to, give the audience an idea of, the scope and the diversity of the people who you will see. And then as was mentioned, there's a few that's not on there. I'm trying to stop sharing my screen, and I don't know what's going on here, but hopefully it will stop doing whatever it's doing. Anyway, I think it's hold on 1 second.
Say hi to the chat. You guys are really some good friends in the chat. I'm liking what you guys are saying over there, especially Shesmo. All right, girl. Yeah.
I don't know what happened there, but it looks like we're still live.
Yep. We were saying hi to your chat.
Hey, chat. Yeah, they having their own debate.
Yes, they are. But this
in the chat
is getting it in. It's like she worked for us or something, or he. I don't know. I love it.
Shout out to Shesmu Patah.
Yes.
Almond. Yeah, but what I was saying before it started acting funny is that, I wanted to inform the audience that, this is a very informative and diverse and prestige cast. And so you are going to get a wealth of information, a wealth of insight, a wealth of perspectives and resources to utilize, in your life and community. And so I wanted to make sure that, people knew, what they were going to see when they actually see the film. And so the film comes out online July the 18th, and you can go to the website I was just on, hapifilm.com, and let me just put the banner at the bottom so y'all are reminded.
Yeah.
And to get your tickets, saying today. And so for those who are just joining, we are having a conversation with 3 of the producers of the film HAPI. It's a film of economics dealing with African people from, I want to say, what is it, like 12,000 years to the present? Not 12, yeah, about 12,000 years to the present. It is a very, very good film. And I was privileged to be a part of the film. So you'll see my face in there briefly a couple of times saying some stuff. And then you'll find a whole bunch of people saying some stuff. And then, of course, we want y'all to continue saying some stuff and doing some stuff as a result of, engaging the film. And so that is the objective. And so I'm going to continue just a little bit and ask, is there, I know, this hasn't come out just yet, but are there plans for an additional film? Is this like the first of a series, or do you have a totally different film idea, for the future? as far as saying this project is concerned? What can we expect?
Well, so in collaborating with Tehuti Films and Felicia Harden, different other individuals, one of the things that we've come to find out is everyone is working on. Everyone has their pockets of things that they're working on, separate. I'll let each individual kind of speak to that. For myself, we would like to do a Happy 2 at some point, and there's some other projects that I'm thinking about working on sometime in the future. So to answer your question, yes.
All right. And yeah, we really didn't delve into the fact that Sister Felicia is also a filmmaker, and went to school for filmmaking, and would like to know some of your past projects and any future projects that you have in the works.
Yeah, so I've done, I went to City College and I got my master's in film. I went to Howard and got a bachelor's in occupational therapy. So I'm still a treating therapist right now. And I'm looking forward to working on some stuff. I have some things like in the works, but right now you can't even think about anything else right now. It's all about Hapi. That's it. It's like this right here. When I met Taaqiy and them on the street 2.5 years ago, I did not know my life would change in this way. This has been not only like God's blessing. It's been everything. So I got some more stuff coming up, but this is where it's at right now. Hapi.
All right. Are we going to get a lost, Hapi reel, some of that unused footage, or y'all going to use that for another project if it fits?
Well, I don't know. That's we're still trying to determine that piece. Still trying to figure that out, because there is a lot of footage there, and something that we have to kind of go through and catalog at some point. But right now, once we get through this hurdle, we can go back and start looking at some of that other stuff. Seed 9.
All right. So, Brother C, Tehuti Films, I know you're working on something. I don't know if you want to talk about it just yet, but you kind of mentioned some things that you worked on earlier. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to first answer your question, which is and give a shout out to Sanjeti, Anka Ma'at, Seba. We are definitely thinking about continuing Hapi. I think that from an academic standpoint, that's what the film is. So I'm curious to see when it comes out the reaction of universities and different schools into their approach of how and what we've given them. And I think that from the standpoint of what Taaqiy brought to it as a director, there's so many things that now can be broken down into a classroom setting, into a program setting, and we can move forward into that before we even come up with a version 2. And again, that is something that's a good thing. That's a positive thing that there's so much to build from there. Because as you said, there's no possible way that we can capture 12,000 years in 2 hours. Impossible. So I think that Taaqiy did his best in communicating, and that vein that goes directly to the heart of what he felt was necessary in communicating about Hapi, this river, the largest living organism on the planet. Our goal with Tehuti Films is we'll be releasing 4 films this year. That's our goal. We just released one, a 30-minute on Tai Chi internal healing arts. And we're presently working on Sacred Woman, a biography about Queen Afua. And our goal is to finish a project we started several years ago with the Temple of Anu called This Legacy of Ours. So we're kind of we're all in this in the same think tank, and everybody that's in the film as they are in other films, Heavy as the Crown, and Hidden Colors, and so forth and so on. But I'm really proud of Hapi, and to me, it's important to stay on the one, and to make sure that the audience receives it, because we put a lot of work into it. And again, it's not even at work; it's like it's our lives. That's really what it represents. Yeah. And I think that the other thing that I want to make sure is that people, I hear this a lot when I start talking about Kemet, about how people don't need to go there, that they can see it virtually, or that they can, take a virtual tour. And to me, that's straight bullshit. Like, I'm just not with that. Like, in other words, I know what a mango tastes like because I can eat a mango, and I can go to the store, supermarket, and I can have a mango, and wow, this mango is good. But it's a completely different thing if you go to the Bahamas or Puerto Rico and you pick the mango off the tree and you bite into it, and you could smell all the mangoes that are rotting on the floor, that have fallen, that nobody picked up. Those little nuances is why we need to go and make it a point, make it our business to visit the Hapi.
So I just want to say a couple things real quick, and thank you to I hope I'm saying this correctly, Rahel Alaji. Just bought his ticket. Kudos to him. Shout out. Thank you for the support. Greatly appreciate it. And on that note, to what the brother Seed said about the hard work that went into it. On July 18th at 7:00, when you watch the film, I strongly recommend, if you have the capability to watch the film on a smart TV or a large screen with some surround sound, do that. You have to see this film large, because the film is that type of film. You can watch it on your computer, you can watch it on your smartphone. I strongly implore that you do not do that. If you have the capability right now to go out and purchase the cords that connects your phone to your television, or your computer to your TV, you want to do that to watch this film. You do not want to watch this film on a small screen with bad sound. A lot of that is a testament to the brother Seed's work, scoring the film, the music in the piece, the cinematography in it. You have to watch it in the scale that this film was produced in, and that's grand.
Indeed. And unfortunately, I don't own a TV, so I have to view it on my computer. But there's a big enough screen this one here, so I think that'll compensate for not having the TV. And so the internet is too much of a distraction for me. So TV would just add on to my natural laziness. So, but Brother 42 Tribe says he keeps a 42-inch TV. Yeah, I can't do it. But
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, because I gotta, I read all day, so I'm trying to, reduce the number of distractions and the TV. But now your cell phone and your laptop are TVs, so makes it difficult. But luckily I'm not into too many shows, so sometimes I'll be tempted. I'll be on Facebook and they be talking about, what's that show with Lisa Ray or Issa Rae,
Insecure? You watch
Insecure? No, but I'm just saying, like just as an example, they'll be like, oh, this and this happened. I'll be like, oh, I want to see. Then I'll be like, no, I don't. And then like Game of Thrones and all this, I'm like, nope, y'all not finna suck me in. What I'm saying, to watching, because nowadays it's not like back in the day where you just watch one episode and then if you miss it, that's it. You just gotta look for a rerun. You could watch the whole season. In one setting, and so you'll be there for 2 or 3 days just watching. And so no, I can't do it. But as it was mentioned, July the 18th is the premiere, and I will be interviewing some more people who were in the film, and we'll get their insights into what they brought to to the table, what they took away from the experience, and then the overall them seeing the film, their takeaway from that. And so it was a great honor to be a part of this project, and I will keep promoting even after, you know, saying the premiere, making sure that everyone sees this. So, you know, if anybody has any influence and pressure, you know, don't speak to your girlfriend or husband until they've seen the film. And you know, you got to use your leverage in any kind of way that you can. So make your children, you know, see it and have a dialogue about it afterwards. But more important, you know, let's start you know, dreaming of some businesses and supporting our businesses, supporting our artists, and so that they can expand and do bigger things and bring our stories to the forefront, you know, bring our culture to the forefront. And, you know, the more businesses that we have and they are successful, the more, you know, we can contribute to making our lot better, because ultimately they can hire your sons and daughters, you know, so that they can feed their families and don't have to be a part of these other institutions that don't value them as human beings. And it all starts with understanding the principles and the themes that are expressed in this film. So I encourage everyone not only just to see it, just to have dialogue, but to say, okay, now how can we make the modern Kemet where we're at? You know, what streams, since Hapi is a big stream, how many streams of income can the family create together, you know, so that we can leave a legacy for our children, you know what I'm saying, to build on. And how can we, what can we do today so that, you know, our name, you know, lives for eternity? And these are the kinds of themes that are discussed, you know, in the film. And so when we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about Egypt because of the legacy that they left and the relationships that they built. And I think they captured this very nicely and well in this particular film. So I encourage everyone to go to hoppyfilm.com, purchase your ticket, purchase a ticket for someone else, you know, donate in that way, make sure that they see it, and y'all keep the conversations going. So, you know, any last words? I'll have each of y'all kind of close out with your individual last words. So I'll start off this time with Brother Seed and then end with Sister Felicia.
I would say just make sure that you see it and that you sit down with the teenager and you communicate to them and ask them what they got from it, more so than just, you know, communicate what you think about it, because I think that that's a really important thing. As I know I have two teenagers and I've seen them grow during the process of watching us make this, and that's really important to me. And I know Taaqiy as well. It's definitely influenced our families in major ways, in interacting with Felicia's sons as well. It's to me, that's the biggest takeaway. So I'll just leave it like that. Just make sure that young people get to it and that they're given an opportunity to communicate what their biggest takeaway was.
Hmm.
So, you know, just to kind of segue on what the brother Asar Imhotep said about getting people, and even with what Brother C said also about inviting people to watch it, particularly younger people. We want to ask that when you watch this film, watch it as a family. Have your young ones sit down with you and watch it and have those conversations with them, because the spirit of cooperative economics, supporting Black businesses, buying black. These are things that are continual themes that you will hear throughout the film, particularly towards the end in terms of the solution-based dialogue that's had. And it's really important that we understand it, but they need to see themselves in the light of being positive, in the light of being powerful, as looking at the ancient black rulers that they'll see, and just black richness overall, not just in finance and wealth, but also in culture. So it's really important that we have these discussions with our younger people, and they sit down and watch the film together as families. So we encourage family watch parties, or just watch parties overall. And you think about, in terms of where we are dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19 and where this led us to doing online screenings. Initially, we were going to do theatrical runs throughout the country and actually internationally. And you know, one of the things with that is per person, per seat, things like that. So with this, there's a tremendous savings in that. And we want people to listen, encourage you, look, this is what the ticket prices are. Get everybody you can and just watch it. But also, if you're going to buy a ticket for someone, you have to use their email address, because when you sign up to purchase a ticket after you buy it, the same email address you use is going to be how you go back and see the film again. So you can't use the same email address, because it's not going to register that way. So make sure if you get a ticket for someone, you're using their email address. All right. So watch parties, conversations, and future dialogue is where I leave that off at.
Indeed. Sister Felicia.
Yeah, so just to build upon what everyone else was saying, just some housekeeping things. So we really encourage you to go to hapifilm.com right now and to at least sign up. We want you to buy a ticket, but at the very least, sign up for the newsletter, because then you get the breaking news before anybody else gets anything. And it's another way that we can connect to you guys and start that dialogue going. The family piece is really important. We just can't stress this enough. This film was made in love, you know, for our people, really. And you're going to gain so much. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, because it is a lot of information, you know, especially if you're not a Asar Imhotep or a Taaqiy, you're just a Felicia. There's a lot of information. However, you can also, after the premiere, you'll be able to digitally download, because it's a reference. You know, it's something you keep going back to. I've watched this film probably not as many times as these two have, but a lot of times. And every time I watch it, I find something new. And, you know, you sit with it for a little while, then it connects to you as a person. Then you figure out how to make it into action. So, you know, go to the website, sign up for our newsletter, buy a ticket, sit down with your family, and just experience Happy.
I appreciate it. Again, thank you all for coming on the program and having this discussion with my audience. And, you know, for those who are watching live, share this video, like this video, and share it again, and keep sharing it, and watch it over again. And all of that. And for those who are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Oh, before we leave, because I'll put my contact information, you know, at the end. But if they want to, on an individual level, catch you all on social media or whatnot, how can they? Where would they go? And so we'll start with Saeed, Taaqiy, and then Felicia again.
Mm-hmm.
Or Seed, I keep saying.
You can reach me at Tehuti Films. It's okay. It's my son's name. You can reach us at Tehuti Films, www.tehutifilms.com, and that's pretty much the best way to reach us. We're a full production facility, and again, you can also reach us through hapi.com as well, hapifilms.com.
All right.
For those who, I guess, friends with myself on Facebook, obviously you can reach me on Facebook. Taaqiy Grant, just the spelling. And you can also reach me through the hapifilm@gmail.com email address. That's HAPIFILM@gmail.com.
All right.
Yeah, you can go to infohoppyfilm@gmail.com. And we are, let me tell you, we are on our social media. So if you have a question about something, if you sign up for the newsletter again, you can put a question in there. Because I saw OG was asking a question about getting some of Taaqi's earlier works. Email me, brother. I'm telling you, the newsletter. Sign up, okay? At any of the social platforms, it's Happy Film at Instagram. It's Happy Film on Facebook. Felicia Harden on Facebook. So yeah, we're everywhere.
All right.
No question's gonna go not answered.
Indeed. Well, just a little few announcements. So for those who know, tomorrow midday, actually, I will continue. I know it's been a minute since I did a lesson from Aluja, Volume 2, which is a book I released in January. But this is going to be Lesson 8, and this is going to be on the Coptic and Middle Egyptian as separate languages. So this is a full lecture. It's going to be at minimum 2 hours. So it'll probably be 2.5, at the most 3. But and once it's done, I will timestamp everything. So if you're catching the archive, you can kind of skip directly to the segments. But I'll be discussing Jean-Claude Mboli's argument in his 2010 work on the origin of African languages. The notion that Coptic is not the last stage of the Egyptian language. And that Middle Egyptian and Coptic are 2 separate languages, in the same way that French and English are 2 separate languages that belong to 2 different branches of the language family that was coined by Dr. Theophilo Benga, called Negro Egyptian. And so that will be tomorrow, Sunday the 28th, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 Central. And so then on July the 6th, Monday, is going to be July the 6th on Monday at 10 a.m. We'll be interviewing Brother Hermel Hermstein, who wrote the series on Black Sumer. And so it's a 3-volume series, and the first volume and the second volume have been out for a minute, and he's working on the 3rd volume. And actually, the second volume is split up into 2 books, but that's still volume 2. But so we're going to be dealing with the debate on whether the Sumerians were Black or not, and the linguistic and physical evidence to support that argument. So y'all do not want to miss that. And so he actually lives in London. So, we'll be interviewing him live from London, which is why I'm interviewing him at such an early time on that Monday. So that is going to be Monday, July the 6th. And then for that Sunday, July the 5th, I will be engaged in a debate with our good brother Zach, who's a PhD student at Temple University, for the Afrocentricity International and the Molefe Kitty Asante Institute. This is going to be online on their YouTube channel. And the debate topic is objectivity African? And so I'm taking the pro position that it is, and Zach is taking the position that objectivity is not African. And so our good brother Tristan Samuels, another PhD student at Temple, is going to be the facilitator of this dialogue. So when time gets closer, I'll have links directly to that. So that's some upcoming stuff there that y'all should be aware of. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of this good information. And so, as I stated before, we're still trying to schedule some more interviews from some of the people who were in the Hapi film. So the Hapi series will continue. And thank you all for joining this program. And everybody, again, go to hapifilms.com, purchase your ticket, and spread the word. And so, with that said, here is my contact information. So, y'all have a blessed night. I'm finna go see what's left of the Roots picnic that is online, and holla at y'all later. So, peace.